These Zero Division stand at the very peak of the hierarchy of power within the Soul Society. These 5 legendary Shinigami were selected to join the Royal Guard not because of their incredible power in combat, but for their insane contributions to the future development of the Soul Society. Unlike Shinigami, who serve the duty to protect the Serete and to maintain a balance of souls between the Soul Society and the world of the living, the Zero Division serves as a final line of defense for the Soul King himself. Without the Soul King, all 3 realities of Hueco Mundo, the world of the living, and the Soul Society would collapse. During the 1000-year Blood War arc, fans had witnessed something incredible with the complete defeat of the Zero Division at the hands of Yhwach and his elite Sternritter. For many Bleach fans, they had assumed that this was the end of the Great Zero Division. After all of the hype surrounding their power, they had appeared to be dispatched with relative ease by Yhwach's elite soldiers. A lot of fans, including myself, were wondering why Kubo had built up the Zero Division to such a level only to have them fall so quickly against the Quincy. This treatment sparked a lot of disappointment amongst fans who had waited years in order to see these legendary characters in action, only for us to then watch them get defeated as they were treated like an afterthought by the author. The treatment of the Zero Division was considered to be one of the biggest letdowns of the 1000-year Blood War arc. I mean, we didn't even know what was the fate of the Zero Division by the time that the manga had wrapped up, but thankfully the story doesn't just end here, as the fate of the Zero Division was revealed during the Can't Fear Unworld light novels. This series of 3 light novels had served to reveal a lot of the unanswered questions that were left from the ending of the manga. So be sure to stick around until the very end of the video, as I'll be talking about the fate of the Zero Division after the 1000-year Blood War arc. I'll be discussing how on earth they managed to survive, as well as some of their new duties and objectives following the death of the Soul King and the replacement of the Soul King, who is revealed to be Yhwach. Now guys, if you love the content that I create, I have actually started up an all-new channel called Super Alpha EX, and I'll be giving my thoughts on the latest goings on with anything that I'm really interested in. So you can expect videos on Final Fantasy, Metal Gear Solid, GTA, and so many more. I already have a video up on the channel discussing the latest details about the Switch 2, so definitely go and subscribe to Super Alpha EX and check out my first video on the Switch 2. Each of the members of the Zero Division had earned their position following some incredible contributions that had fundamentally shaped the Soul Society into what it is today. Unlike the Gote 13 captains, who are selected primarily for their combat skills, the Zero Division are true pioneers whose innovations had become the backbone for the Shinigami's culture and technology. Without their creations and contributions, the Soul Society as we know it would simply not exist. You have Ichibe Hyosobe, the monk who calls the real name, as the leader of the Zero Division, and he is the first Shinigami to have ever achieved Bankai, and at the time Bankai was referred to as Shin-uchi. Ichibe actually possesses the power to name all of reality, and he had named all things that are currently present within the Soul Society, including the concepts of Zanpakuto, Shikai, and Bankai themselves. This power over names is absolute, and he can remove or alter the name of anything that he chooses, thereby allowing Ichibe to alter the very nature and power of physical and inanimate objects. Everything black in all worlds is also under his domain, so without Ichibe, the Soul Society would lack even the basic terminology to define some of its most essential concepts. We then have Tanjiro Korinji, inventor of the healing hot springs. He is very proficient in healing Kido, and he had even taught these Kaido techniques to Retsu Unohana. His healing hot springs can heal injuries that would be fatal to others, and his amazing combat speed had earned him the nickname Lightning Fast Tanjiro. Korinji's contributions to the Soul Society had changed a lot about the Shinigami's warfare, as he had provided them with essential healing techniques, as the Soul Society had no systematic way to recover from battle injuries before this, thus making every conflict potentially devastating to their ranks. Korinji's innovations essentially created the entire medical framework upon which the 4th Division was later founded on. Next we have Kiryu Hikifune, the former captain of the 12th Division. She has earned the title Divine General of the South by creating artificial souls and her Gikon technology. Her unique ability to imbue food with her own Reiatsu is able to dramatically enhance the power of those who consume the food. Hikifune's artificial soul technology had also changed how Shinigami interact with the living world, allowing them to maintain their duties without abandoning their Gigai. Kiryu Hikifune Hikifune essentially enabled the entire system of Shinigami deployment to the world of the living, which we see throughout the series. We see this during the early portions of the Arrancar arc, when the Shinigami arrive within Karakura town to assist Ichigo and the others with the Arrancar. They were using Gigai in order to transform into their spiritual bodies, with the mod souls taking over their Gigai in order to protect them after the Shinigami were done with their battles. Next we have the impressive Uetsu Nimaya, who was the god of the sword. He had created the Asauchi, which essentially are the nameless Zanpakuto that form the basis of all of the Shinigami weaponry. His understanding of Zanpakuto surpasses all others, thus making him capable of reforging broken Zanpakuto like Ichigo Zangetsu. Without Uetsu Nimaya's creation, the Shinigami would lack their most defining tool, the personal, soul-cutting Zanpakuto, which defines their powers and their identity. The entire combat system of the Soul Society exists because of Nimaya's innovation, making him perhaps the most fundamental architect of the Shinigami's combat style. Last but not least, we have the impressive Senjumaru Shutara, the Great Weave God. She had invented the Shinigami Shihakusho that is worn by all of the Shinigami, and she had developed the Oken clothing that allows safe travel between realms. Senjumaru's mastery over weaving extends to combat, where she can manipulate threads to bind, attack, or create elaborate deceptions. Senjumaru's uniform design goes beyond just clothing, as it provides the user with spiritual protection and regulation, standardizing their abilities and allowing for proper control of their powers. Additionally, her Oken clothing innovation enables safe passage between realms that would otherwise tear apart spiritual beings. We see this when Ichigo departs from the royal palace when he's returning to the Serite. Collectively, the Zero Division's power is said to exceed that of the entire Gotei 13 combined. Now, what makes them truly special is their connection to the Soul King. Each member has had the Oken incorporated into their bones by the Soul King himself, as this links these 5 Shinigami intrinsically to the royal palace, and it grants them the ability to travel freely between the realms. This connection to the Soul King and his palace would later prove crucial to understanding their ultimate fate. During the Thousand Year Blood War arc, the fall of the Zero Division marked one of the most shocking moments during this story arc. After all of the anticipation surrounding these powerful characters, their defeat came as a bitter disappointment to a lot of fans who expected more from the Soul Society's elite soldiers. I mean, the Royal Guard were hyped up as early as the Substitute Shinigami arc, when Rukia had name-dropped them when she had spoken about the Menos and how the Royal Guard are usually deployed in order to deal with them. Now, the manga and anime had portrayed the defeats of the Zero Division very differently. In the manga, their defeat was largely implied rather than shown. This was after Nimaya had initially destroyed the Schutzstaffel, and Yhwach had then used Osvalen in order to revive and empower his fallen soldiers. The Royal Guard were off-screened, as the next time we see them they were defeated. As we get glimpses of their fallen bodies, Cringy had blood pouring from his mouth, Nimaya was lying on top of a tree with a chest wound from Lil's attack, Hikifune was missing an arm, and Senjumaru had a chest wound. The manga unfortunately provided us with very little insights into the specifics of this battle, so the abrupt off-screen defeat felt very jarring given their earlier introduction as the Soul Society's ultimate fighting force. Now, thank God for the anime, because this had actually expanded upon these events here significantly, giving viewers a more comprehensive look at how the Royal Guard members were defeated. The anime had given us an extended fight sequence showing how Nimaya had defeated the Schutzstaffel in more detail. We also had an addition of a strategic fight where Kirinji and Hikifune attempted to intercept Lil's shots in order to protect Nimaya. There was also a dramatic scene where Senjumaru uses her threads to instantly heal Nimaya after he was wounded. We then also have the complete new battles, which show off Kirinji facing off against Askin and displaying his mastery over Shumpo. We also have the anime revealing Kiryu Hikifune's Cage of Life, as it was shown as nearly inescapable, requiring the combined power of Yhwach, Uryu and Hashward in order to breach it. Now, the most significant addition that the anime had made was the reveal of the Blood Oath seal and the self-sacrifice of 3 of the Royal Guard members so that Senjumaru could activate her Bankai. Senjumaru's Bankai was a last-ditch attempt which still proved to be ineffective against Yhwach's the Almighty and Uryu's antithesis ability. I believe that the anime original editions had given the Zero Division a much more dignified defeat, showing that they weren't simply overwhelmed, but they were rather forced into a desperate last stand, where even their ultimate trump card wasn't enough to defeat the combined might of Yhwach and the Schutzstaffel. After the defeat of the Zero Division, it led to Yhwach absorbing the Soul King, and it almost resulted in the collapse of all of reality. This forced the remaining fighters like Aizen, Ichigo and Renji to step up as the final line of defense as they worked together in order to beat Yhwach. Now, while Can't For Your Own World reveals that the Zero Division members are intrinsically linked via the anime original edition of the Blood Oath Seal, this also reveals a crucial truth about the Royal Guard, as they are not only bounded by cosmic responsibility, but their powers are also intricately tied to one another. It takes the sacrifice of 3 Royal Guard members in order for one of the members to activate their Bankai. When Senjumaru had activated a Bankai, tremors were felt across all of the dimensions. This explains why the Blood Oath Seal prevents the Royal Guard members from activating their Bankai under normal circumstances. This ensures that these immensely powerful beings are not able to disrupt the balance which they are sworn to protect by activating their powerful Bankai. Like I mentioned earlier, it's important to explain the Blood Oath Seal because this will later help us to understand how the Zero Division were revived during the events of the Can't For Your Own World light novel. So amongst all of the members of the Zero Division, it was only Ichibe who had initially survived the attack of Yhwach and the Schutzstaffel, though he was defeated in a spectacular fashion. In one of the most brutal defeats in Bleach, Yhwach completely destroyed Ichibe with his body parts scattered across the battlefield. Now, Ichibe survived because he possesses a unique ability that sets him apart, as he is the monk who calls the real name, and the namer of all things within the Soul Society. So when Ichigo arrived at the Royal Palace and he called out Ichibe's name, something incredible happened. Ichibe's scattered body parts began to reform, drawing on a small portion of Ichigo's power in order to reconstitute himself. This resurrection ability aligns with the established power system which Kubo had been building throughout Bleach. Since the beginning, Ichibe's power has centered around names, their creation, manipulation, and the fundamental truth that all power resides in names. Ichibe's ability to recreate himself when his name is spoken isn't just a convenient plot device, but rather the logical extension of his established abilities. Just as Ichibe is able to rob others of their power by manipulating their names, he is also able to take advantage of his own name as it contains the power to reconstruct his very being. Ichibe's power over names does extend to his very own existence, making him uniquely suited to be the failsafe for the Zero Division. So if one member remembers his name and speaks it, he is then able to return from what would be an absolute death for anyone else. So this extraordinary ability to return from an apparent death was the first hint that we had that this isn't the end of the Zero Division. The full extent of Squad Zero's resilience wasn't revealed until the Can't For Your Own World light novels were published. These light novels explained that the Zero Division members had the Oken incorporated into their bones. They didn't just gain the ability to travel between realms, but their very life essence was also fused with the Royal Palace itself. This fusion connected them to what Ichibe had called the spiritual pulse, or the Reimyaku of the Zero Raiden. So yeah, this is the spiritual pulse of each of their individual palaces located within the Royal Palace. So this connection means that as long as the Soul King's Royal Palace exists and at least one Royal Guard member remains alive, then they can revive fallen members simply by calling out their names. As Ichibe had explained to Shunsui, we didn't convert our bones to Oken for the fun of it. Our spiritual powers have more or less fused with the spiritual pulse flowing from our individual palaces. As long as one of us survives, the others will revive enough to at least walk when they are called for. So like I mentioned, this creates a situation where Ichibe is the ultimate failsafe. He can be revived by anyone simply saying his name, and once he is revived, he can restore the other Royal Guard members, and it's an elegant system which ensures that the Zero Division can only be truly defeated if both their physical forms are destroyed and Ichibe's name is forgotten by every being in existence. Given that Ichibe had virtually named everything within the Soul Society, including the concept of the the Zanpakuto itself, such total erasure of his name is going to be impossible. So this totally changes our understanding of what we had perceived to be the defeat of the Zero Division. What had appeared to be their end was merely a temporary setback. Thanks to their connection to the palace itself, it ensures that the Zero Division members can be restored as long as some portion of the royal palace stays intact, and they can only truly be defeated if the entire system that they work to defend collapses. Following the events of the 1000-Year Blood War arc, when Yhwach was defeated by Ichigo, the Soul Society entered a period of recovery and reconstruction. For the Zero Division, this new era brought significant changes, especially in regards to what, or rather who, they were now protecting. With the original Soul King dismembered and defeated, and Yhwach having absorbed him, the remnants of Yhwach himself became the new linchpin holding the worlds together. This transition created a moral dilemma for the Zero Division. They now found themselves protecting the very being who had slaughtered them, and whose ideology they had fought so hard against, and who had sought to destroy the system that they were sworn to protect. The irony couldn't be more stark, as their eternal enemy had become the new foundation of reality that they were bound to protect. As revealed within the Can't Be Unworld light novels, Ichibe's first priority following the war was to resurrect his fellow Royal Guard members. He had started with Uetsu Nimaya, using the connection between the Royal Guard and the palace in order to slowly restore each of the members to life. One can only imagine the discussion that followed, explaining to each resurrected member that their sworn enemy now serves as the linchpin that they need to protect. The Soul King Palace itself underwent renovations following the devastating battle against the Quincy. The previous divine soldiers who had guarded the palace perimeters were all killed during Yhwach's invasion. This required Ichibe to create new guards in order to maintain the security of the palace. All of these changes represented both a physical and symbolic renewal of the royal palace, adapting to protect a fundamentally different Soul King than the one that they had been serving before. Now, perhaps the most significant post-war development for the Zero Division was Ichibe's decision to share the true history of the Soul King with the other Royal Guard members. This history had revealed the disturbing truths about the nature of the Soul King and the founding of the Soul Society. According to Ichibe's account, the Soul King, whose original name was Adonias, had formed the three worlds out of the primordial sea, but was then subsequently betrayed by the founders of the five great noble families. They had then sealed him in a crystal and had severed his limbs, reducing him to a limbless entity that the Shinigami came to revere. This revelation shocked the other Royal Guard members, who had not been aware of the Soul King's true history or his condition. The Can't Be Unworld light novels hint at the discomfort that was felt by the other Royal Guard members after they had learnt about the true history, particularly for those who had devoted their entire existence to serving what they had believed was a benevolent cosmic order. In reality, they had actually been guarding a prisoner rather than a willing king, fundamentally altering the moral framework of their service, as they are now in an interesting position where they are guarding the remains of a tyrant who had tried to free the original Soul King. So despite all of these events and these revelations, the fundamental responsibility of the Zero Division remains the same. They need to protect the linchpin which maintains the balance between the worlds, preventing their collapse. Whether if that linchpin was the original Soul King or the remains of Yhwach, it doesn't matter, as their duty is still the same. In this way, the Royal Guard demonstrates perhaps the purest form of service, as they continue their eternal duty not out of devotion to an individual ruler, but to the cosmic balance which protects countless of lives across all of the different realms. So yeah, this was everything that was revealed about the Zero Division during the Can't Be Unworld light novels, as we learn about their fate following the 1000-Year Blood War arc. So yeah, while following the events of the manga, it may have seemed like the Zero Division members were off-screen and remained permanently dead. Thankfully, the Can't Be Unworld light novels have finally revealed that the Zero Division members are actually alive, and it was thanks to Ichigo calling out Ichibe's name when he had arrived at the Royal Palace during the 1000-Year Blood War arc. With Ichibe having been revived, he was then able to restore the other Zero Division members as long as the Royal Palace had remained intact. So yeah, you can see how intricately linked all of these Zero Division members are, with the Oken being within their bones, with the blood oath seal that they've made with each other, and now this information that we learn that Ichibe is able to revive the other members as long as these certain conditions are met. So yeah, that's everything that we know about the Zero Division members after the 1000-year Blood War arc. If there is anything that I've forgotten to mention, then let me know by continuing the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I cannot wait to see you in my next Bleach video. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.